They say that the phoenix is an allegory for life. That despite all things, we emerge from the ashes of our past, of who we were, stronger, better, and more beautiful. That we rise again. We see proof of this in the country once at war, finally saying enough. We see this in Hillbrow's story, which is also Fontana SUPERSPAR's story, because the two are really one and the same. The Fontana HighPoint store was born into Hillbrow in its glory days. With its hip lifestyle and expensive living, it was the place to be if you were anybody, if you had a name, or if you wanted one. Hillbrow had a buzz all of its own, eclectic, visceral, inspiring. It spoke to the hearts and minds and collective consciousness of its people. It was alive with opportunities, possibilities, and the future. It was the place to be if you thought differently and wanted more. In like manner, the Fontana HighPoint store was driven by its differences. It was a risk taker and rule breaker too. Imagine this. It was the 70s and both Hillbrow and Fontana danced to Africa's heartbeat. Tucky, who came to South Africa at the age of 18, was born an entrepreneur. He constantly sought new opportunities and after owning a cafe and a fish shop, bought the first of what is now a group of Fontana stores in 1962. He then became the first retailer to trade on a Sunday, taking the government to court in order to earn the right. And he was back in court soon thereafter to make it possible to sell hot bread and rolls on that Sunday too. Fontana HighPoint was introduced as a high-end exclusive food store, more like a deli than anything else, designed to cater to a diverse assortment of shoppers. The day he opened his doors, he threw his keys into the crowd and vowed he would never close them again. And he has kept that promise 24/7 through good times and very, very bad. The 80s were an era of upheaval in South Africa, but even more obviously so in Hillbrow. It was the cultural melting pot of the country after all, being the first region where the Group Areas Act was lifted. And so everything that happened around it was amplified within it. The heartbeat of Hillbrow started to become a little less fun and a bit more inconsistent. At the same time, major retail chains and banks moved into the area, grabbing pieces of the unconventional pie and changing the game in an environment that had no rules. The result was that Fontana HighPoint had to adapt or die. They had to become more of a grocery store. Not even those difficult times, though, would be able to prepare the community for what the 90s brought with them. Political turmoil and economic strain dramatically changed the demographics of Hillbrow, leaving Fontana unable to talk to their new customers. They couldn't give them what they wanted because they didn't understand what that was. The only consolation was that they weren't the only ones. During this time period, the major retail chains and banks that snuck in began to leave, with the result that finding investment became practically impossible, and just about everything became stagnant and began to decay. In the height of Hillbrow and Fontana's identity crisis, Tucky decided to convert his store to Spar, a trusted brand. He made a few small changes and relaunched himself as a quick Spar. He was fearlessly moving forward in a place that the world believed could only march backwards. That small change, that leap of faith, was all Fontana needed to survive. The phoenix was emerging from the ashes. By the 2000s, Hillbrow wasn't just stabilizing, it was slowly regenerating. And with another small revamp and conversion into Spar, so was Fontana. Truth is, change and turbulence are an inevitable part of life. It's how we handle this upheaval that is so fundamental to our success. Growth comes through change, and when we acknowledge this, adapt to this, and alter our course because of this, we realize that it's really nothing more or less than a new opportunity waiting to be embraced. Hillbrow's story is clearly one of evolution and glory, despite the odds. Today, it hosts a transient community of people, and it beats again. Perhaps a little differently, but certainly wiser and stronger than ever before. And as for Fontana, it's now a super spa, and a place that has also learned from its past, from the challenges it faced, to stand today not only able to offer their diverse community everything they need, but so much more. The beat goes on. The Phoenix lives again.